I was the result of a teen pregnancy, but my mother had her own problems. So she was dumped in an orphanage in 1968. I think her dad was a traveller man, and her mother had a thing for these traveller men, kept getting pregnant, and kept dumping the babies in the orphanage. So she was one of many siblings, but they all got shipped out separately. So she always had abandonment issues. Therefore, she went on to abandon me. So I don't blame her. So the lady that adopted her then adopted me, and then my mum went off to Manchester from a little place called Buxton, Derbyshire, because that's where she was raised. She went off to Manchester, I think it was 1988. So that was, I think, the substance era of harsher substances.
Yeah.
And she ended up working for the Quality Street gang, or she had ties with the Quality Street gang. So she was bottom of the chain, if you know what I mean. It was like someone, then someone, then someone, then her, you know.
Yeah.
So they started dealing, my mum and my stepdad, and we would have so many characters come into the house, flat. It was like a trap house, what you would call, you know, or a den. And
how old was you at that time?
So I was about 6 when they...
Did you have a sister and that? Did you do?
I had a sister afterwards. She was born when I was 6. So I started going there about 4 years old. Yeah. And the vibe was very strange because I remember it to this day, you know. And then my sister came along a little bit later. So I was from the ages of about 4 to 13, I was going to Manchester to see all this. And we'd have loads of characters turn up. You know, someone had their nose bitten off in a fight in a pub in Manchester, and he was called Gary No Nose. Then we had a guy that had his ear bitten off, and he was like No Ear Dave or something. And then we had another guy who used to wear, you know, you get all the we give them nicknames, don't we? Yeah. A guy that used to wear Bermuda shorts and stuff. You know, there was all loads of characters there, and even though it sounds horrendous, I found it quite interesting because I like listening to the stories of all these guys. But then things took a turn when she changed substance to a harsher substance, right? You can use your imagination. Everyone can use their imagination. And then, you know, the gang life got a little bit heavier. And sometimes my parents would get into debt and whatnot. And then I remember this one time there was a taxer. You know what a taxer is, don't you? It's somebody that waits for your purchase and then he'll tax you with your purchase, or they'll tax you. So she said to my stepdad was a bit of a loose cannon, and she said to me, you know, she said to him, you need to go out and look for this taxer, but you can't get caught with the machete, because we had lots of weapons, right? So they've she said, take Gemma with you. She's put the machete down. She put a pair of her Levi's jeans on me, put the machete down the back of my trousers. I remember to this day. And
how old are you against?
I was about 7 or 8. Yeah, about 7 or 8. Yeah, so she's pulled the belt tie, and I remember it to this day. And I've gone out with my stepdad to look for this taxer, so that if he needs to get it, he can just access it from my back of my trousers. But so he doesn't catch a charge, you see, because he was in and out of strange ways.
So they're using you to carry the weapon?
Yeah, they used me to carry the weapon. And then we went they lived in Hume in Manchester, right? And there was a subway right next to our block of flats. So we went under the subway, and I'll just remember it vividly, and there was a great big pile of blood on the floor under the subway with all clots in it. It would congeal because it had been there for so long. So I must have been shocked at it, but my stepdad reassured me and goes, oh, don't worry about it, don't worry, you know, it'll just be like from a dog or something. Anyway, we've not found this taxi, but imagine if we had, you know, what would have happened? What would they have seen? And then we've gone back to the flat, and that was that situation. And then I remember one guy had taken a hit of substance, and he started having an epileptic fit. And then my dad was a white rasta, right? Yeah, culture vulture, I know, but he was a white rasta. He went by the religion, like he worshipped Jah and all of that. And then he used to hang around with this other rasta, this mixed race guy. Anyway, this guy had a hit. The other rasta came in, and he was like, get a spoon, he's going to swallow his tongue. So we're seeing all this. This lad's kicked over my dad's substance all over the floor, right? So you can imagine my stepdad, he's trying to scrape it all up off the floor. This guy's having a fit. Yeah, it was just chaos, absolute chaos. And then because they were obviously selling, we had CCTV cameras, right? So my mum, being on this other substance, started to get psychosis. So she would, when she had to go and get a delivery or something, or a pickup, she had to go and pick up, which was the only time I ever saw my mum happy, when she was interacting with these higher up Mancunian, you know, gangsters, you know what I mean? But she idolised that life, you know what I mean? It was the only time I ever seen her happy, like I say. And then she'd come back and sit me in front of the CCTV, thinking that there was brassers coming to the house. So she was like, can you hear them coming in, Gemma? So now her psychosis is putting it onto me. And sometimes I could hear him coming, going, John, you know, he's dead now, so I can say his name, at the letterbox. But I used to say, oh no, I can't hear him, because I didn't want her to be upset. So it was just chaos after chaos. And
you're only 8, aren't you?
I'm only, 8, 9 and all this. And
was you going to school as well?
I was going to school. So I was lucky. So my nan raised me in Buxton, Derbyshire, Monday to Friday. So I had an escape, but my sister didn't. She came along when I was about 6. So she was in it. They raised her, they kept her, but I was like given to my grandma, which was a blessing in disguise really, because I got some time away, some respite.
Yeah.
So I went there on the weekends, but my sister, bless her, she was subjected to it. I don't know what she saw, because she was there 24/7, you know.
Yeah.
And that was it really. But the reason they had their addictions is because of trauma. So my stepdad, he lost his sister to murder. Mm-hmm. She was at a school disco, and this boy approached her, and she refused his advances. He's grabbed her, took her to a secluded area, followed her home. But listen, my stepdad was supposed to walk her home, and he didn't. So then he had to live with the regret.
He's had to live with him for a...
He had to live with the regret. So what this lad's done, he dragged my auntie to a secluded area. He's essayed her, beat her. She was just hanging on, but he didn't want that. So he set her on fire, stamped on her face to cover her identity. And then obviously...
Fucking horrific.
Yeah, horrific, yeah. She lost her life. And then he did go to prison for it. I'm not sure how long he got. It was somewhere in about the 50s.
But because your dad hadn't gone to pick his sister up and whatever, that like anything...
He was tormented.
And it never went, and that's why he turned to, you think, substance abuse and stuff like that?
Substance abuse, yeah. So... although it sounds horrendous, and yeah, it probably is, I wouldn't raise my children like that, but the reason they had addiction was because of these deep traumas. You know, he didn't come from the best background either, just like my mum. Even the lady that raised her wasn't the best, you know, she was quite narcissistic, and then there was an abuse scandal that we don't know, and he's dead now, so I daren't say it in case it isn't true. So I'm like, what did she witness? What was she subjected to? She also saw my granddad's deterioration, because he had cancer from being on the ships in the Navy in Japan and places like that. And then he got skin cancer, so she saw his deterioration. You know, it was just trauma after trauma after trauma.
It's just a long list of...
It's such a long list, yeah. So I don't blame him. You know, I know it sounds horrendous, but he gave me lots of stories.
But you know what though, Gemma? When you say you don't blame them...
Yeah.
Because everyone... As a kid growing up in like the 80s and whatever, and 90s and stuff, and even kids of today, people's circumstances are a lot different, and people don't know what goes on behind closed doors, and people, you know, people can portray this mask and whatever and be happy, and when you don't know the full story of what's going on and why people do drink, why people do take drugs, why people do, you know, certain, you know, addictions. And we've just had a previous guest on before, and she was an alcoholic, and she said trauma, you know, with like certain things. And when you mention the word trauma, like a lot of people, it's made me think about it now when people do go through trauma in life, and it's like a substitute to block it out. Don't get me wrong, it's still there the next day.
Yeah, of course.
But that little bit of time to take...
respite.
That respite, it's the word.
Yeah, that's it. Because my mum's attitude when she took a hit, she was in this euphoric state, and I preferred her on it than off it, not the harsh. They're both harsh.
When we're rattling and like that or something. It's like when you have I had aunties and uncles who were, you know, into hard drugs and stuff, and I seen it, you know, when I used to think, what the fuck are they taking that for? And like you've just said there, you know, we've had people on who've been addicted to certain substances, and they say it was the best feeling in the world, and it made me, you know, forget about everything. And I'm thinking, fucking hell.
If you could just switch your brain off.
Yeah.
Even for us, it'd be lovely, wouldn't it?
Of course it would,
But I just couldn't lean into that. But some people
No, some people do.
Yeah.
And listen, I'm not here to judge anybody.
No, me either.
Listen, when you've been there and you've been around certain situations, you sort of get it. And I do get what you're saying, where people might watch this and go, what the fucking hell is she on about?
Yes, they will do.
Because they didn't live that experience, what you did, and you seen your mum and your dad.
Yeah.
And, you know, and that was, unfortunately, they made choices. They weren't the right, you know, they're not the right choices, but for them, they thought it was the right choices.
Yeah.
So what happened from there then?
So what happened from there is they both got really into the substance, where it was coming to a point where they were just getting in debt. So they had to go into hiding then.
Would you use?
Oh, actually, no. With my sister. But prior to that, my stepdad went to Strange Ways.
Would he go to jail? Yeah.
Yeah, so my mum was on her own, this little woman, still carrying on the business, right? A rival gang from Moss Sides come into my mum's flat, broke in, or she's opened the door, I can't remember what, so they've gang essayed her. And she had a little lad, she used to get a guy from upstairs to come and stay with her while my dad was in Strange Ways.
So she could go and visit and stuff?
No, for company.
Oh, right.
For company. Oh, because me and my sister we was at my grandma's, both of us that night. Dodged a bullet there, didn't we? So the gang essayed her, but not just that, they gang essayed him as well. Yeah. So, but because she was running gangland territory, she couldn't go to the police because they took all of her substance as well.
They taxed her?
Yeah, taxed her of everything, did that to her. So, you know, so my mum had all that trauma on top of it, and that wasn't the first guy. You know, she started having an affair behind my dad's back, which was naughty, and then he brutalised her with an open bottle, nearly unalived her. Yeah, and she used to brush it off and just say, oh, he did a Fatty Arbuckle on me. I don't know if you know who Fatty Arbuckle is, but what he did is he ESA'd a woman, and I think he actually unalived a woman with an open bottle. Yeah, because I know this is brutal, but he took her insides out, and then he did that to my mother. But my mother still went back to him because these monsters get in your head, and she went back, even though he did that to her. Anyway, so all that happened. My dad come out, they ended up getting in more debt, and went into hiding. He got found, got shot in the head, not directly. So he was on a balcony and got caught, and the guy's gone like that, bosh, from I can't remember, well, it would have been from the same gang, but I don't know if it was still the Quality Street gang. It was another gang at this point because they were there for years. Shot him, it's gone up and slit his head open at the top. I got told this, another couple, because I'd not spoke to him for 6 months because they went missing, they were in hiding, and I didn't know where they were.
You were at your nan's.
And I was at my grandma's, my nan's. And another couple that used to go down to Manchester to get substance, because you know what it's like, you can't get it in the small towns sometimes. Before county lines were a thing, you used to have to travel to the big cities to get substance. They come and knocked on the door and said, your mum is on the game to pay back the debt and your stepdad's been shot.
Thanks for watching this clip. If you like what you see, click the link below to watch the full episode and give us a little subscribe as well.